Rallying patriots worldwide in defense of human liberty. You're listening to The Alex Jones Show.
It's beyond the archaic garbage that is royalty. But at least someone in that clan, someone in that tribe, someone in that group had led peoples to success and cultural and military victory. But then it would always become decadent, corrupt, even in the better societies that forced the royal bloodlines to be at the front of the battles. As soon as royalty stopped being at the front of the battles, it became the cancer. But now global corporations, tax exempt, taking control of governments to suck dry populations and then have a rearguard action of political correctness, getting everybody to racially fight with each other. That's all this is. And it's in the WikiLeaks, and it's in the government documents. How is a Jeff Bezos worth $100 billion himself, sitting on top of $1 trillion company, who's got the laws written where he gets $1.48 for every package of taxpayer money given to him, so he can leverage out even the Chinese slave factories and leverage out even Walmart, even the other big fat parasites? Well, he spends hundreds of millions of dollars a year. It's chump change to create division, sexual division, cultural division, to fund Black Lives Matter. And so does Google and Facebook and Twitter, and so does IBM, every stinking one of them. Not because they're liberals. Their executives are some of the most hardcore anti-human people. They're beyond racist. They're so elitist that their factories are always amongst the most vicious and hateful, with mass suicides and just forced drugging and abortion. Because they want people poor and under full control. They do not want to build economies that are sustainable and successful to build families. They want a post-industrial world with a bunch of poor people. Brutal conditions in Amazon's warehouses threaten to ruin the company's image. Yeah, but that's nothing, ladies and gentlemen. It's like California. They legalized giving people HIV or hepatitis. But 20 years ago, they passed Prop 65, where the USDA and the FDA say that lead is dangerous at 1,000 times what California says it's dangerous. The EU is 250 times higher. There's more lead in the air. But then California passes a law exempting basically California businesses. They pay a $500 fine, but then no one outside of the state's basically exempt. I mean, this is parasitic behavior written into a state law to launch attacks against all the other states. Who thinks like that? George Soros. He funds a lot of it. And then what happens? You can't have jobs anywhere in America. That's why in California, they've got signs on every major building and in restaurants. This food, the steaks, chicken broth, has twice, naturally in the bones, the level of what they say is lead. The spectrometers can hardly even pick it up. But they don't care because they are exempt. Just like the EU bureaucrats are exempt from the laws and the regulations and the taxes. Look it up. It's the new royalty. And guess what? We're going to educate the public about it, jerks. And then when we're done, you're all going to be sued out of existence and thrown in jail. Think about the pink slime scam, buddies, and get ready. Ladies and gentlemen, tomorrow in studio, you're going to witness a controlled demolition of the Hollywood pedophile elite. You're going to witness the detonation cap being struck. You're going to watch the beginning of their absolute total collapse. They are your sworn enemy. They are the diseased brain of the globalists, hell-bent on destroying culture for absolute, complete domination. They are so mentally ill and so incredibly competitive that they see your prosperity as evil. They don't see overall prosperity as their collective prosperity. They see it as a horrible affront to them. That's why they push collectivism that we've seen ravage every country that ever tried it. And here we are, 100 years into the great experiment of Marxist-Leninist ideology. And 220+ million dead we know of at the hands of communism. Fascism and all other governmental exterminations we know of are only another 60 million. Communism accounts for over 80% of death by government in the last 100 years since the luscious, in the eyes of the globalist, sickening, anti-Christian, anti-family, anti-God bloodbath, orgy of carnage and death that is the great vampiric red terror, suckling on the blood of your children. That's who they are. And they wish to suckle on America. And they've already suckled on our jobs, our industry, our technologies, our inventions, and used it to buy off and enslave most of the world while hanging around our neck the laurel of the tyranny, while they themselves preach hatred of the host, the great creature that they rode. Yes, America has been a power slave of the globalists. But now globalism is in free fall worldwide. Coming up, Millie Weaver, who was a model and in some films, things out in Hollywood. She reached out to us, I don't know, like 7 years ago, back when she was like 18 years old, wanting to tell her stories. And I said, listen, we can't be the lead elephant on things. We have a lot of the guests on and experts on that first break things, but I know Hollywood's really bad and does a lot of really terrible things. But I said, if you'd like to be a reporter on news issues for us, you could file reports. That's why we've got reports 7 years ago when she was 18 years old for us. And her sister also did quite a bit of stuff in Hollywood. And she wants to come on air and talk about some of her experiences at the bottom of the hour. I've asked her not to name names because, and some of this is on the public record if folks want to look it up. But we are tomorrow going to have in studio the folks that made the film that is now getting a lot of attention, An Open Secret. Now, magically, this broke today on the 19th, even though we've been scheduling this week on Friday to have these folks in studio. But here is the article, or the group of articles that we'll be getting into at the bottom of the hour. Is Hollywood sitting on a pedophile scandal? Well, does a bear live in the woods? Do fish live in the sea? Do birds fly in the sky? Is grass green? And did grandma love you? Maybe she didn't, but most grandmas do. Ladies and gentlemen, you can't swing a stick in L.A. in the elite areas, elite maggot areas, or you can't swing a stick in D.C. or New York in the so-called elite areas without hitting a pedophile. Now, pedophiles are only the Renfield procurers. I told you this sex scandal with Weinstein is meant to legitimize going after Trump, to make all scandals about males and females together in what could be consensual sex. I'm not defending what Weinstein did. Looks like assault. Certainly looks like intimidation, stalking, racketeering. Had others involved in the cover-ups. Definitely sleazy to the max. Roman Polanski, girls and things, getting away with it. Meryl Streep saying he's a great guy, even when it's known he is. That tells you who they really are. But I told you, this sex scandal with Weinstein will fall into the gay mafia and men dominating men, many times not even for the pleasure of sex, but for domination. It's that eurythmic song. Some of them want to use you. Some of them want to be used by you. There's certainly plenty of folks in Hollywood that like all this. There's a lot of people that don't. So it goes from the heterosexual to the homosexual to the pedophilia, and then it's human sacrifice, torture, death, murder. And they prime people with things like 50 Shades of Grey and all this to get people into it, thinking it's avant-garde. But finally, the 10th or 15th time you're in that dungeon and didn't tell anybody where you were going, once you've been running around with a bunch of folks and they think they've got you where they want you, they're not going to let you out of those ropes. You're going to be down there for couple weeks if you're lucky, maybe a few months. So they might keep you for a couple of years in a dungeon. They're going to come in and laugh at you with a bone sticking out of your side, begging for your mommy. And just finally, when you become a gibbering, wailing person, finally when they hear you making happy noises, totally mentally ill, totally broken, they're going to say, get that slab of crap out of here and throw it in the river. Or they're going to open an acid bath up and dunk you in there. Hollywood doesn't like it when I tell you this. Hollywood is a spider hole for devil worshippers to get your young daughters and sons out there so they can rape them and torture them to death. So, it's not, the gay mafia is only one level. Below that's the pedophiles, and below that is torturing men, women, and children to death. Their favorite thing is a 2-, 3-year-old crying for mommy, begging in total horror. They just sit there in those dungeons and rape and torture them, and they want to do that to your family. But because they can't, that's why they give them the vaccines that cause all the brain damage and neurological disorders and cancer. Because if they can just spiritually torture you that way, it's kind of like a bonfire from a distance. They feel the heat, their God rewards them. Because Satanists, true psychopathic Satanists, are not happy unless they are torturing an innocent person. They have nightmares, they're tortured, they're scared, they feel alone, they feel powerless, most of them, and are just really freaked out. That's the deep psychopathic study, not the stuff you see on TV where, you know, American Psychopaths mounting women's heads on walls, and he feels really great and he's cool. That's their act. Most of the really hardcore ones are tortured, and they describe it as white light blazing. Like in the Manchurian Candidate remake, when they activate the mind control guy, suddenly everything's bright and beautiful and wonderful. And that's exactly, I've talked to top psychiatrists that have actually studied the famous serial killers. They've been on the show. You've heard them. And they, I mean, the real study, it's like they come alive. It's like everything's good now. But that's because they're like possessed, basically. We're not sure. You don't believe in spiritualism. That's fine. It's just, it's an archetype. And so only when they get your kid out of a backyard, or only when they're grooming your kid and watching them in school, or only once they get them in the vehicle and take them to the dungeon and then torture them and then get away with it, only then do they have enjoyment in life. It's like oxygen. Imagine yourself underwater. You go to the deep end. You go down 10 feet. It's kind of fun at first, but suddenly you want air. You kind of panic. When they're not torturing your children or your wife or your husband or your daughter or your son, when they're not torturing a good innocent person or poisoning them, they're not getting air. So they need to torture and kill you. Look at North Korea. Millions tortured to death every decade, total slave labor, all about domination, all about control. Look at the Nazis. Look at the Communist Chinese. Look at Pol Pot. Look at the Khmer Rouge. Look at every time the Aztecs. It's all about priest of power, torturing and chopping people up and having control over them. There's some type of demon energy in the universe that enters into people and always manifests this from a sociological, archaeological point. It's a known fact. We're facing hordes of devil worshippers. Can you imagine the children, and the women, and the men? A lot of folks like to torture strong men. That's what the Mexican drug cartels, a lot of them are into torturing men until they give up and beg for their mommies. But then if they can't torture the man to do it, a lot of times the cartel heads will commit suicide. That's even been in a big investigative report I read like 20 years ago, based down in Matamoros, in a Texas Monthly article, that they tortured this other narcotics trafficker to death for like 2 days, and they couldn't get him to break, even though they pulled his eyes out, ripped his teeth out, cut his testicles off, were burning him, pouring hot grease on him. The guy just kept going, "You're going to hell. I've defeated you. You're crushed." And the cartel people just freaked out. Some committed suicide. Others just gave up. Just, See, I mean, this is some weird stuff, ladies and gentlemen. This is some weird stuff these people are into. And I'm telling you, it's gringos in L.A., and it's Chinese in China that are into it, and it's Mexicans in Mexico, and it's black people in Haiti. It's devil worship. And people can't ignore this stuff at their own peril. But you serve God or you serve the devil. Remember Bob Dylan? There's video of this. He wasn't joking. In 2 different interviews, he said, you know, I sold my soul to the devil. And he said, you got to serve somebody, and this system's run by the God of this world. And he even became a Christian for a while, but he said, you know what? I just decided to go back to the God of this world. And so I serve the devil. I sold my soul. That's Bob Dylan. Smart guy, stupid guy at the same time. Bob Dylan, I don't care about star name dropping. Heard this show, seen our material, heard about that years ago. Still decides to go along with the system. He could write songs 30 years ago about sundown on the Union, about world government, and about GMO crops. Think he knows what's going on? And why would Bob Dylan decide to go with the God of this world as smart as he is? Not me, Jack. The devil can take a big old jump in the lake, as they say. Yeah, Katy Perry says she sold her soul to the devil. And they don't just do that to act cool. I've been in Hollywood, and I've had people ask me, hey, the devil isn't that bad. Lucifer isn't that bad. And all you got to do is renounce Christ, and you're going to be a very, very rich man. I never told that story until Mark Dice told it. Mark Dice is there at one of the biggest reality TV show companies in the world. They're offering him his show with one of the lead members of Motley Crue. And he's in there alone with the head producer, the head of the company. And the guy looks at him and he says, you know what? I like the devil, and I worship the devil. And Lucifer's God. And if you'll just tell me that you worship Lucifer, I'm going to give you this job. Mark Dice wouldn't worship Lucifer. So he didn't get his stupid reality show. Who wants it? I've been on the shows, didn't have to worship the devil. Who cares? Having a real, in-depth discussion with you, being able to really long-form break things down, really talking about what's happening is so much better than being in some decadent, dirty mega city with a bunch of soulless people scrabbling for recognition and their moment in the sun, their 15 minutes, and having to go in there and sit in front of devil worshipers and say, fine, I renounce Jesus Christ. That's what they want you to do. Well, I don't. And I'm not renouncing the Republic. I'm not renouncing my family. And I'm not getting on my knees, and I'm not scared of you. I know who you are. And that's what they hate. Because they want to torture us into submission. They want to break our will. They want control of our will. Because you never really give up your will. They just want you to turn it over to them. They want you to be a slave for them. That's what they're after, not the money. The money is the light that brings in the moths to the flame, or the anglerfish at 10,000 feet down. So the other little fishies think they're about to eat another little plankton that's glowing. Oh, it's a little worm that's glowing. I'm going to get some dinner. And you get up closer, and all of a sudden there's a big old black fish with big old blue teeth. Pow! You're dead. And it's just sucking you in. Hollywood, you see that light? Get a little bit closer, and it's, yeah. Yeah. Stick your arm in this drainage ditch. I'm going to rip it off. And then when you're begging for your mommy, I'm going to let you crawl away. And I'm going to reach out with a big, long arm, and I'm going to drag you right back in. And there's going to be popcorn and lollipops and clowns down here. And you're going to love it. You're going to like it. You're going to enjoy it. So just come on down here, sweetheart. You're going to like it because you're going to float too. It's so liberal. All the big feminist leaders say we shouldn't have families. That hurts women. We should have the trannies teach the 3-year-olds. It's liberal. Families are bad. Stick your arm in this drainage ditch. Oh, I can put 2 and 2 together. Ellen DeGeneres, CNN. She's invested and works for Mandalay. We knew that Jesus Campos disappeared for days to be told what to say. And now the Daily Mail has a big, long 10-page article saying exactly what I told you yesterday, saying put 2 and 2 together. Exclusive! Get today's news yesterday. Mandalay Bay owner insists security guard Jesus Campos appear only on Ellen and not to be grilled by TV hard hitters. fearing his answers to timeline questions could result in a massive lawsuits from victims of the massacre. Gee, that's exactly what I said 2 days ago and yesterday. Again, why do they fear us? Why do they hate us? Because we can say 2 + 2 = 4. And as Winston Smith said in 1984 to O'Brien, freedom is the ability to say 2 + 2 = 4. And O'Brien said, it is, my friend, and I'm going to torture you until you're completely mentally ill and you don't know what 2 + 2 = period. You're just going to say whatever I said because I want to dominate your soul. Now get ready. I'm going to torture you for a month straight. See? Oh, George Orwell, Secret Intelligence, MI6, OSS, telling you, he said, this book is what the Fabian socialists are. They are priests of power that want to stomp on your face forever. Or lock kids up and starve them to death while you rape them. See, it's all there. It's all there. You ignore it at your peril. Millie Weaver's coming in to get into all of it. We got other huge, exciting news about trust busting by Donald Trump. What Trump put out in his tweet 5 years ago, that he thinks child molesters ought to be executed. Yep. He's not like Salon and CNN and the New York Times talking about how much they admire pedophiles. He doesn't want to grab your kid out of the backyard. He doesn't want to have your kid stick their arm down in a drainage ditch. That's not what he's into. He's into 6-foot-tall supermodels because he's not intimidated by something powerful. He doesn't want to dominate something little and defenseless. He wants somebody to love him. He's not a devil worshiper. That's why they hate him. The time of the season to expose the power cult that is Hollywood and D.C. and how the predators there want to get you involved in every form of corruption there is. Drug dealing, money laundering. It's not just men abusing women or women abusing men. It is the gay mafia oppressing and dominating people. That's being covered by gay folks in Hollywood. But below that, it's the pedophile mafia. And then there's the occult mafia that we first started exposing 20 years ago with whistleblowers from the BBC in London. And now it's coming out that the Prime Minister reportedly tortured and murdered children. Mr. Heath, that's the top police commissioners are saying that with evidence. We also just have all of this incredible evil coming out where one of the top members of the royal house's entourage, Jimmy Savile, had a secret satanic dungeon where he took children to rape them, and he went and had sex with other leaders with dead bodies of children at the hospital and reportedly conducted satanic rituals where children were killed. And then there's a list of the children that were found dead, freshly killed, but also dug up. You want to find out about it, just look into it for yourself. So when I talk about Hollywood and the next shoe to drop being pedophilia, and then after that, the final level, outright Satanism. That's why they're pushing bondage and stuff for young women. So the first 10, 15 times you do it, there's no problem. Suddenly you're at a party, you're tied up, you never come back. So it's not like serial killers that trick women to get in and they put handcuffs on and then, you know, I won't hurt you if you put handcuffs on. No, it's your friends do it, and then finally you get killed. And they do it to men, they do it to children, they do it to women. This is what they're into. And they had one of the top members of the Scorpions go public and talk about clubs in Germany. He named them a few years ago where they'd go and they'd kill people at these. And sometimes this is with thousands of people. They'll drag in a bum and, you know, shoot them. That's kind of the entry level, is killing bums. You got to pay a lot of money to kill kids. But that's how this works. That's why they want a lot of illegals coming in. That's why they've got thousands of kids they've smuggled in from Haiti. One of the favorite things to kill is small black children. There's a famous case you can't find on the internet, but I have the newspaper clippings of the Rolling Stones and a black child that was found dead in New York at their house in a voodoo ritual. It's disgusting. So it's despicable, and we are bound to see this happen and come out from Hollywood as we see more of these celebrities being given some support from the people, from the American people. When they see that the American people are appalled by the sex abuse and the satanic ritual stuff that's been going on in Hollywood, they're going to get more comfortable, more confident in coming out releasing more. And again, we're mainly radio, but we syndicate television as well. But if you're a radio listener, that's Millie Weaver, one of our great reporters. Has it been 6 or 7 years you've been filing reports for us?
It's been quite a while. I think 2013 was when I first started filing some, but then we kind of came back on later.
So maybe I talked to you before that, so it's been at least 5 years. But it seemed like, I mean, I knew your story, and of course, you've never really gotten into your personal, your sister's story on air. You're just doing reporting. Now you live here, obviously, with your son, and you're doing a great job here at InfoWars. But just your overall as a woman and as a researcher and as somebody who lived in Hollywood as a teen and then saw some of the underbelly of what goes on there, what is all this latest news really about?
Well, what I can say is this. It's real, 100% real. What these celebrity women are saying goes on. It's actually even worse. They're just at the tip of the iceberg, what's going on. And it was so bad, in fact, that myself and a group of other women actually got together in Hollywood, and we created something called the Hollywood Girls Club, which, you know, it's been completely ran into the ground and run out. We ran out of Hollywood, actually. We had our events shut down by big helicopters. I mean, we were literally chased out of Hollywood because we were trying to create a women's networking organization at the time that was actually anti-feminist. We were against feminism.
And that was in the newspaper at the time. I mean, so you were accomplished at doing that, trying to get women to actually organize, not have a bunch of fake feminist virtue signaling by women that actually helped deliver children to people like Roman Polanski.
Exactly. We were not following the typical feminist model, feminist norm.
Where you virtue signal all day, but then help take folks to rape rooms.
Yeah, no, not like some of these other people here who I have, suspicions about. Meryl Streep and Madonna and some of these other women who claim that they're feminists, claim that they're for
Meryl Streep does standing ovations for Polanski saying he did nothing wrong and should be allowed out of prison for raping a 13-year-old girl.
Yeah. And that's because they're all covering for these Hollywood predators, these demonic, filthy scum that are out there abusing women. But it's bad. You have a concentrated level of talent and beauty all coming to Hollywood. So what are you going to have? A concentrated level of predators. They all magnetize there. And so then you have all these girls being taken advantage of, and then they come out with a bad taste of men in general. And that's what it seems like the media is trying to do in hijacking these celebrity women's abuses by telling all women that, see, this is all a problem of masculinity. It's all men's fault. Men are the bad guys in general. When in reality, you have a handful of predatory type men out there. And what needs to happen with the real men out there, the good-hearted men out there, they need to, instead of saying, oh, well, okay, and try to disinvalidate it by saying, these women, maybe they were asking for it, maybe they're trading for their career or whatever. No, the real men need to say, you know what? We're going to take on these women's plight. We're going to fight these predatory, disgusting...
And then that way the leftists can't be the gatekeepers, just like they control the environmental movement but want to tax carbon dioxide, but ignore genetic engineering, atmospheric manipulation, nuclear reactors leaking. They always want to lead the movements so that they can control them because obviously it's like the missing children groups, it turns out, keep getting run by pedophiles. Or, it's like the cancer research groups are actually run by the drug makers who don't want you to have a cure.
The globalists want to divide the sexes. They do not want people having traditional marriages. They don't want men and women getting along, raising productive members of society. They don't want that. So what are they doing? They're having these predatory type men get away with it, sexually abusing and assaulting women, and then if you can convince the other general population of men to say, oh, well, she asked for it because they're attacking masculinity as a whole, the feminists are, then what happens, the feminists decide, well, we'll take up your plight, we'll take up your cause, and it needs to be said right now. We need real men coming and saying, you know what? These women were abused, and we're going to come after the scum out there in Hollywood, the Harvey Weinsteins, the disgusting types out there, because we know they do not represent masculinity. They represent weakness.
And we hear on that Weinstein tape, he isn't even trying to make her feel good or get her in bed. He wants to humiliate her watching this disgusting blob shower. And obviously the other things he does, there are things I'm not going to mention here. It's about humiliating gorgeous, beautiful women.
Exactly.
I'm not going to get into the things they do, but obviously what's come out in Hollywood is these guys are so degenerate. It's not sex with these gorgeous women. It's making them do degrading things.
And these are the beta males. These are the guys who women naturally wouldn't be magnetized to. And then meanwhile, you have all these alpha males out there in society who aren't preying on women, who aren't trying to get in these positions of power to do these things. And those are the men that women need to come and help them, essentially. So
and that is what it is. Modern culture creates these cults of betas who are then twisted and seek after power, but it's always really twisted versions of it. I mean, making, beautiful women basically get on the ground like a dog and eat crap. That's the kind of things reportedly Mr. Weinstein's into.
Exactly. Exactly. If you want to take down feminism, because feminism is vile, it's repulsive, it's all about man-hating, and I will not stand for it.
And it's all about weird technocrat women controlling women.
Exactly.
As if you don't have a husband that's there to defend you and you help him, the state's your husband.
Exactly. The women are forced to go to these feminist women that hate men for help rather than going to the real men in society, the men that can actually stand up and say, we're going to come after the Harvey Weinsteins. We're going to come after these sick predators that want to do this to women.
We're going to play some of that tape when we come back. And I know I want to be careful because I know your story and your report and your sisters. But if you want to, without getting into names, talk about just what really happens in Hollywood when you were even underage, just so people get an idea of imagining women out there luring young girls in, just like they use women or children to lure folks into the ice cream truck, and then you're never seen again. I mean, that's what Hollywood is. That's what Nickelodeon is. That's what MTV is. It's all a big lure to sexualize and get your children. And that's why the left hates me so much, because a large portion of them are now fellow travelers on board. A larger percentage than I thought actually like all this because they're all so beta and so cucked. Intrepid reporter Millie Weaver, her and her sister, back when they were underage and then after they were 18, were in Hollywood and witnessed a lot of what we're already seeing, but she's saying it's the tip of the iceberg. We have producers and directors of the award-winning film An Open Secret in studio tomorrow that The Week and others are reporting on, saying this could bring down the pedophile networks in Hollywood. So that's the next level. Before we get more into your story and show some of these articles and documents that folks can watch who are watching a stream online at Infowars.com/show and on some cable and TV stations around the country, but describing it for radio listeners, we'll go over it. But Millie, before we get into your story and what happened to you and what it's like to now see this breaking as Hollywood implodes, as the snake eats itself, as this thing begins to crumble, as the rats try to leave the sinking ship. What about the deeper stuff, the devil worship, the pedophilia? I mean, you were underage when some of this happened to you, but I wouldn't call it classical pedophilia if you're 16 or whatever. But what about the occult? Did you ever run into that in Hollywood?
Oh, definitely, without a doubt. I had been exploited when I was underage by a prominent mogul in Hollywood. I won't say names. And once you're in that loop, you have people surrounding you, basically making sure that you're in their circle, in their network. And so I was surrounded by big-time producers, big names. My sister and I, we had record deals on the table, and all these people that were surrounding us. It wasn't until years into associating with these people. I mean, these are the Grammy Awards. I was at the Grammys. I was at the Academy Awards, a bunch of different things. And I was being groomed essentially to be inducted into the Hollywood celebrity circle. And
we now know that's what Disney did. Most of these big stars, male and female, are primed right through being sexually abused many times by the time they're 6 or 7 years old. And then they're even rehiring directors that raped little kids. Disney does.
Yeah, and one of the producers that I was working with, records Carrie Underwood, Selena Gomez, big time multi-millionaire producer, records for Disney, did a bunch of soundtracks for 300 and all.
In fact, since we have a new audience every minute, guys, pull up the article about the famous director that raped the 12-year-old boy and still got hired by Disney. That broke last week. I'm going to put that on screen. Go ahead.
So essentially what happened was, right when you get to the precipice, right when you're about to sign your contract, about to sign your movie deal, that's when they start revealing what they are, who they're affiliated, what they're about. And that's when they start telling me about their OTO affiliations, Illuminati, drinking blood, a bunch of stuff.
And just to be clear, with your contacts, you were able to get in the Getty Center that nobody can, and got video of actual manuscripts of child sacrifice that are 500 years old that we premiered here. I mean, with you and your contacts, you guys actually got in there. Nobody's ever gotten that out.
Yeah, and my sister, actually, she was invited to one of these rituals, and she went, and she said she saw basically a big fat woman sitting up and dancing up on a stage naked, and they had a guy dressed like Jesus sitting in a chair throne, and they were essentially enacting a ritual where this big fat naked woman was this what is it? The
goddess.
Yeah, the goddess. And she was trying to seduce, and she seduced and kissed the guy that was looking like Jesus. And then they all took a communion to it.
And that's just entry-level blasphemy.
That's entry-level, yes. And then once I started realizing, oh my gosh, these people, what am I getting into? And I wanted to get away from that. You know, that's when it all broke loose. I started being gang harassed, stalked, threatened. Gavin helped me get away from them. I met him totally separate from these people, and they freaked out. And we were gang stalked. We were harassed. They charged false charges against him for saying that he harassed them when they called him and made death threats toward him. It was as though the courts, everything were just interlaced with these corrupt people. You know, it's disgusting how bad it is in Hollywood. And sorry, it's hard for me to say all of this just because it brings back a lot of memories.
Well, you're doing a great job. I mean, you're strong. It was hard for me to talk about.
Yeah.
Because I'm a guy and I kind of just sloughed it off and thought it was weird and said, hey, watch it, I'm going to knock you upside the head. And then they were like going, ha, 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 like they're guys. But, I mean, I've had producers just you're in a meeting, they just reach over and grab your genitals. It's just an act of domination.
Well, the worst part was, you know, after this big Hollywood person, celebrity, had, you know, sexually abused me.
How old were you then?
I was 17. I just turned 17 at the time. But that's when my mom reached out to some attorneys and tried to, you know, and then you find out that these attorneys that are women that say that they're feminists aren't really out to help women. And that's the hardest part, is the realization. And that kind of red-pilled me in a big way to realize how vile these feminist women are that say that they're helping women, and really they're out there just kind of protecting and being handlers and damage control for some of these bigwigs. It's really disheartening, you know, and that's why I say we need more women to come forward, and as well as men, because there were child actors like Corey Feldman, Corey Haim. There are much more than are willing to be brave enough to come out against. And
Corey Feldman is hinting at naming Hollywood pedophiles. I mean, the word is, you heard it here first, folks, in the last few months. The pedophile scandal is about to break, and then the Weinstein comes out after that. So I really think, I'm not defending Weinstein, it's terrible, but they've allowed this to come out in the New Yorker after the New York Times and NBC spiked it back in 2004 and 2009 because they want to use all this to smokescreen the pedophilia.
Exactly. And then we have these feminists now out there in the media, which enrages me, taking this on as their champion, their plight, their, oh, this is all men, this is all masculinity, we need to all like whip these men into submission. That's what the feminists say. And it's disgusting because in reality, what we need is real men to stand up and come after these predatory types, because these women who are out there saying this, pushing this MO, they're part of the globalists, they're part of the elites. It's all part of this divide and conquer strategy where they want to divide men and women so we don't have marriages, we stop having as many children, we stop having successful, moral...
And by the way, that's in all the government documents. That's in the Tavistock, that's in the CIA, it's all been declassified, mainstream news, and they've done it.
You know, and it kind of reminds me of this story that Gavin told me about his grandpa and how times used to be versus how they are now. You know, they're putting all these chemicals in the water to try and lower sperm counts. But, you know, I want to talk about his grandpa. Apparently one of their neighbors kept beating his wife, okay? And the men kept finding out, and Gavin's grandpa kept finding out through the wives. The wives would keep complaining, you know, this guy, he keeps beating our friend so-and-so, he's beating his wife. And you know what they did? They went over there with guns and they beat him up and said, if you ever put your hand on this woman again, we will mess you up bad. And you know what? He stopped, and the women stopped complaining. Their wives stopped complaining, and they didn't need feminism.
Because men acted like men.
Men acted like men. And nowadays, it's like the guy's beating up the women are all hearing the other women complain, and the men aren't doing anything. So what do? They go to the feminists who are going to try to demonize all men.
Who are actually more like madams who want to control women. I've been around some famous feminists, and they, even though they're old women, they actually hit on you. I mean, I'll just say it because they put Joy Behar image on Twitter grabbing a man's genitals without asking. I mean, she didn't do that, but I was on CNN with her too, not just The View. And she's like, you're a good-looking young man. Hey, I'll tell you, how long are you in New York? And she didn't go all the way, but it was like the famous madam in the movie, like, hey, baby, why don't you come up here and see me sometime? And for an older woman, I mean, she was definitely putting it on and wasn't joking. Well, I'm not going to say arrest her because she grabbed a guy's genitals. You know, the point is, the next time he said stop, though, then it would be rape if she continued. But it just shows what a bunch of hypocrites they are.
Exactly. And I have actually met and been told about and was in circles with people who are like, oh, yeah, that's so-and-so. She's a madam. And the madams have tried to come and talk.
And again, you got a lot of women that, again, just have that madam spirit as well for the powerful men. We're going to go to break, come back with more. Just briefly, folks, if you don't financially support us, you're not supporting the tip of the spear. We got great products you need. Great specials going. The globalists want to shut us down. They're obsessed with demonizing our products all over national television because they're so good, they're so high quality, and there's just all a pack of lies out there. So stand up against Soros and the globalists so we can fund our operation and continue to defeat them. 50% off on Brain Force, our amazing nootropic. That's going to end the next 2 days. 50% off on that nootropic. We've got other great products as well. Anthroplex, that is a super male vitality powder form. 50% off. We've never done that. But I've learned, if I discount even more, you buy even more, you get a better price, we're able to fund our operation, and it's a win-win. So please, get your Anthroplex if you haven't tried it. Amazing stamina, energy, libido. That's what it's done for me. A bunch of concentrated known organic herbs. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. Super Male Vitality, cold-pressed, powerful herbs, 30% off. And we've got Caveman. They haven't taken the special down, but we got to end it because it's going to sell out soon. The Ultimate Paleo Formula, that's still 50% off because it hasn't been taken down yet, I noticed. And a bunch of other specials are about to end. InfoWarsLife.com or 888-253-3139. InfoWarsStore.com is the umbrella site with all the great T-shirts, books, films, and more. We'll be back.